I didn't come here looking for anything but quiet. The city had worn me down, endless meetings, faces blurring into expectations I couldn't meet. I booked the cabin online, sight unseen, craving isolation like a breath after drowning. Keys jangled in my hand as I pulled up the dusty drive, the ranch sprawling under a bruised sky. But the door hung ajar. Footprints scarred the porch dust, fresh and deliberate. Heart thudding, I stepped inside. Shadows shifted. She emerged from the back, broad-shouldered flannel clinging to her frame, carrying the faint scent of earth and worn leather, eyes sharp as barbed wire, yet holding a quiet weariness. "This is my place," she said, voice low, cutting the air like wind through dry grass. "No rental here." Thunder grumbled distant, but the road behind me was already slick with gathering rain. Trapped. My pulse quickened, not just from fear. Something in her gaze, steady and unguarded for a flicker, stirred the silt of my hidden self, pulling at the edges of walls I'd built over years. As rain began to pound the tin roof, we stood there, the space between us heavy with unspoken rules, like sediment settling in a still river. Her reluctance echoed my own walls, both of us guarding what we couldn't name, yet drawn by the shared silence. The storm had trapped her, but it was the quiet storm in the rancher's eyes that truly held her captive. She knew then she wouldn't be leaving anytime soon. The drive out had been endless, dust devils swirling like my thoughts. City exhaustion clung to me, a weight in my chest from years of pretending, of fitting into suits and smiles that never reached my eyes. I needed this escape, solitude to unravel the knots burnout had tied. The cabin promised that, remote on what the listing called a working ranch, but private, or so I thought. It appeared through the haze, weathered boards silvered by sun, nestled against hills that rolled like forgotten waves. Inviting, yet the isolation hit me. Vast sky pressing down, wind whispering through scrub. It mirrored the turmoil inside, like silt settling slow in a still river, burying what I'd run from. My urban life, the masks I wore to hide who I really was. Keys turned in the lock with a click too loud in the quiet. I pushed the door open. Lived-in details assaulted me. A flannel shirt draped over a wooden chair, faded plaid catching the dim light. A coffee mug on the table, steam faint, handle warm to my touch. Intrusion slammed in like cold wind off the plains, stealing my breath. This wasn't empty. This was hers. I froze. Footsteps from the back room, deliberate. She stepped into the frame, calloused hands planted on hips, her presence filling the small space like earth after rain. Broad build, lines etched from work and weather, hair tied back practical. Her eyes held mine, guarded, assessing, authority unspoken but there, in the set of her jaw. Defensiveness rose in me, hot. "There's been a mix-up," I said, voice sharper than intended, pulling out my phone to show the confirmation email. "I rented this cabin, paid in full." She didn't move, stance unyielding, but something flickered. Deeper isolation, perhaps, in the way her shoulders tensed. Years alone out here, I guessed, fending off the world. The air thickened, hay and earth scent mixing with the faint trace of her, sweat and soap, grounding. Her proximity stirred unfamiliar warmth amid the chill seeping through cracks. I stepped back, but the room felt smaller, her gaze pulling at threads I'd kept hidden. Pulse in my throat, not just from the standoff. Something electric, unnamed. She crossed her arms, flannel sleeves bunching. "No such arrangement on my end. This land's mine." Her voice carried fatigue, edges rough from solitude. But the storm outside built, wind rattling windows, rain sheeting now, no leaving. The reality settled, heavy as the dust on my shoes. We stood there, silent, stretching. Her eyes softened a fraction, wariness battling something else. Rural code, maybe, not turning away a stranger in need. My own vulnerabilities mirrored back. The city girl out of place, craving quiet, but finding her instead. She didn't budge. "Proof," she said, voice steady, but I caught the edge, fatigue woven in like old rope fraying at the ends. Solitary ranch life had carved that tone, years of wrangling wind and weather alone. No room for softness here, not for a stranger dropping in like rain on parched ground. I fumbled for my phone, screen lighting my face in the dim room. Emails pulled up quick, the rental confirmation glaring back. Dates, payment, the works. See, it's all here. Rain lashed the windows now, relentless sheets blurring the world outside. I glanced out, heart sinking. The road was a ribbon of mud, washed out already, water carving new paths through gravel. Escape impossible. It felt like barriers crumbling, eroded banks giving way to flood, forcing what was hidden to the surface. My plans, her solitude, both swept into this. Her eyes narrowed at the screen, then flicked to me. Wariness. Sharp. Internal conflict played across her face. Reluctant hospitality, tugging against the pull of her quiet world. Rural code ran deep out here. You couldn't turn away someone caught in the storm, but outsiders? They disrupted. Brought questions she kept buried under daily grit. Doesn't change facts, she muttered, handing the phone back. This cabin's not for letting. Ever. We moved to the kitchen without words. The space narrow, worn counters scarred from use. She filled the kettle, motions efficient, pouring water that steamed against the chill. Shared silence settled, thick as the coffee grounds she scooped. My heart thudded against my ribs, like distant thunder rolling in, echoing the storm's growl. I watched her hands, strong, knuckles, rough from reins and rope, wishing I could read the lines, like a map to her thoughts. The air smelled of damp, earth seeping through cracks, mixing with the bitter brew. She slid a mug my way, steam curling up. Drink, you'll need it. Simple words, but they hung there. I wrapped my hands around the warmth, fingers pale against the ceramic. That's when she noticed. My city-worn hands, soft from keyboards and coffee runs. No calluses to speak of. Those look like they've never held more than a latte, she said, dry, a hint of amusement cracking her guard. Not mocking, just observing, like she'd seen plenty of folk like me pass through. I laughed, short and self-deprecating. Guilty. I'm more likely to spill the feed than scatter it right. It sparked something. Humor, light in the tension, my incompetence laid bare, but not weaponized. She nodded, almost a smile tugging her lips, the first thaw in her stance. Out here I was useless. A fish flopping on dry land, but admitting it bridged the gap just a sliver. The power shifted then, subtle as the rain easing to a steady drum. Road's gone till morning at least, she said, crossing her arms. You stay. Couch is yours. Not a question. Her voice firm, but nurturing, peeked through the tough exterior, like she couldn't help it, the code winning out. I wanted to argue, reclaim some control, but the storm howled agreement, trapped together, her world swallowing mine. The reluctance in her eyes mirrored my own pulse, quickening at the thought of night unfolding in her space. What walls would crack by dawn? Thunder rolled closer, forcing a reluctant conversation over the flickering lantern light. The silence that night was thick, broken only by the rain's drumming and the soft, steady sound of her breathing from the next room. Dawn would bring a new kind of reckoning. Morning light filtered through the cabin's thin curtains, pale and insistent. I woke to the ranch's rhythm, cocks crowing sharp in the distance, their calls slicing the quiet like a reminder of routines I didn't know. She was already up, boots thudding soft on the floorboards as she moved through her early chores. The air smelled of dew and damp earth, clinging to everything. I lay there, blanket rough against my skin, feeling like an intruder. This was her domain, carved from years of sweat and solitude. My presence disrupted it, a soft, city shadow in her hard-edged world. I sat up slow, the couch creaking under me. My clothes from yesterday hung wrinkled, a sign of how far I'd fallen from my polished life. She was in the kitchen when I padded in, her back to me, cracking eggs into a cast-iron skillet. The sizzle filled the space, yolks breaking yellow against the heat. Breakfast was awkward, portion simple, eggs from her hens, still warm from the nest, fried with salt and nothing more. We sat at the scarred table, Forks, scraping plates. Conversation came sparse, words dropping like rain on dry ground. "What pulled you out here?" she asked, not looking up, her voice even. No judgment in it, just probing, like she was testing the edges of my story. I hesitated. Fork midway to my mouth. Burnout. The city, it grinds you down. Meetings that never end. People expecting pieces of you I couldn't give. She nodded once, eyes on her plate. The silence stretched, comfortable in its sparseness, but heavy with what we didn't say. Her questions lingered, gentle, drawing out the escape I'd sought without pushing too hard. After, she handed me a pair of gloves, worn leather, cracked from use. "Come on, might as well make yourself useful." Small tasks waited outside, gathering eggs from the coop, my fingers fumbling the wire door, letting a hen escape in a flurry of feathers. She watched, then stepped in, her movements efficient, grace born of muscle memory. I tried stacking hay bales, arms straining, but they toppled, dust exploding in the air. Clumsiness marked every try, my soft hands blistering quick against the rough twine. She didn't laugh, just steadied a bale with one hand, showing me the grip. Firm, unyielding, like this. Hold it, don't fight it. Quiet empathy built in those moments, her patience a bridge over my frustration. I saw her then, not just the guard, but the woman who'd mastered this land through trial. My failures contrasted her ease, but they softened something in us both, a shared rhythm emerging from the chaos. The ranch stretched vast around us, endless fields under a sky that pressed close, mirroring her guarded heart. Dust clung to everything, boots, skin, the air itself, like unspoken regrets settling in the corners of her life. I walked the fence line alone that afternoon, wind whispering through the wire, and felt it deep. Out here, space swallowed secrets, but they lingered, heavy as the grit under my nails. Her solitude wasn't just choice, it was armor, built against losses I could only guess at. The vastness echoed my own inner pull, the burnout that had driven me away from crowded streets, seeking a place to breathe true. But here, in her world, the isolation felt shared, less like a void and more like fertile ground waiting for rain. We paused by the barn later, wiping sweat from our brows. She leaned against the post, calloused fingers flexing. That's when vulnerability cracked through, a glimpse of ranch hardships, her voice low. Drought last year took half the herd, fought the bank for months, alone. Words simple, but they carried weight, the exhaustion in her eyes real. As she gestured to the parched earth, her hand brushed mine accidentally, rough skin against my smoother palm. Electric. A jolt ran up my arm, warmth spreading slow, stirring the air between us. I didn't pull away. Neither did she. The touch lingered a beat too long, unspoken, before she stepped back, clearing her throat. Evening came soft, firelight flickering in the hearth, deepening shadows across the walls. We sat by it, the crackle filling the quiet. Her stories unfolded then, hints of lost family, parents gone early. A sister drifted to the city lights, leaving her to hold the land alone. Loneliness threaded through her words, paralleling my burnout, the hollow ache of connections that never quite fit. Out here, it's just you and the work, she said, staring into the flames. Keeps the ghosts at bay. I nodded, sharing a sliver of my own, the urban facade cracking under pressure, hiding parts of myself I'd never voiced. The fire warmed us, but the real heat built in the shared glances, the way her presence filled the room without crowding it. Night deepened, and I lay awake later, the silence full, her breathing steady from the next room. Something shifted that day, tentative like the first green after rain. As days blurred, shared labor turned isolation into tentative companionship. Days blurred into a rhythm I never expected. Mornings started with the sun cracking the horizon, pale light spilling over the fields. She'd knock soft on the doorframe, coffee in hand, her voice pulling me from sleep. Up. Animals won't wait. We'd head to the pens together, buckets swinging, the air crisp with dew. Feeding them was her ritual, grains scattering in arcs, chickens clucking eager. She taught me gently, hand over mine on the scoop, showing the even pour. Steady now. They sense hesitation. Her touch lingered, calluses rough against my palm. At first, I spilled half, feed dusting my boots like misplaced trust. She watched, then laughed, low, unexpected, cracking her tough facade. The sound warmed me more than the rising sun. My efforts drew more chuckles, her eyes crinkling at the corners. You're getting it, slow but sure. That laughter softened her, edges blurring, revealing the woman beneath the guard. I felt it too, the pull of her patience, drawing me into this world step by clumsy step. Afternoons shifted to harder work, mending fences under the relentless sky. We'd walk the lines, wire cutters in her belt, posts leaning like old regrets, sweat mixed with dust, streaking our skin, the heat pressing close. Physical proximity heightened everything, her shoulder brushing mine as we hauled wood, breath sinking in the strain. I'd hammer nails crooked, metal bending under my grip. She knelt beside me, adjusting with quiet words. Here, let me. Our hands overlapped, hers guiding, steady. The unspoken attraction built in those moments. Heat, rising not just from labor. I caught her scent, earth and faint lavender from some hidden soap, mingling with the dry grass. My shirt clung damp, and hers too. Flannel, dark at the seams. We paused often, wiping brows, eyes meeting longer than needed. The ranch demanded closeness, no room for distance, and it stirred something deep, a current under the surface. The river ran nearby, a ribbon through the land, flowing steadily, yet unpredictably. We'd rest by its bank during breaks, water murmuring over stones, reflecting our emerging bond. It carved its path patient, but floods came sudden, reshaping banks in chaos. Like us, steady routines, hiding internal floods of feeling. I watched it one afternoon, silt swirling in eddies, mirroring the turmoil I'd carried from the city. She sat close, boots dangling in the shallows. This river's like the ranch, she said, gives and takes without asking. Her words hung, symbolism clear in the rush. Our connection flowed similar, gentle at first, then swelling with unspoken depths. The water's unpredictability echoed my heart, steady pulse quickening near her, floods of want threatening the calm I'd built. Deeper talks came during those breaks, words spilling like the river after rain. I'd share city pressures, the deadlines crushing, colleagues seeing only the facade, never the woman hiding her truths. It's all performance, I said one day, skipping stones across the surface. Smiles for clients, silence for myself. She listened, head tilted, then opened up. Her choice of solitude stemmed from past heartbreaks, loves lost to distance, judgments in small towns that pushed her deeper into isolation. Folks here talk. I stopped trying to explain. Empathy bridged the gaps, her story weaving with mine. We weren't so different, both guarding hearts from worlds that didn't fit. Her voice softened, sharing it, vulnerability peeking through. I felt seen, the weight lifting as she nodded. Sounds like running in place. Her insight cut true, gaps closing with each shared breath. Subtle, romantic sparks ignited then, small but insistent. Her hand steadied me on uneven ground, fingers wrapping firm around my arm during a fence repair. Watch your step. The grip held longer, warmth seeping through fabric. I met her eyes, lingering, gray, like storm clouds clearing. My guarded heart thawed, walls crumbling under that gaze. Another time, crossing a rutted path, she pulled me close against a gust, bodies aligning brief. Breath caught, the air charged. No words, but the spark hummed, attraction no longer unspoken. Evenings brought more, passing tools, our knuckles brushing, electric trails fading slow. I found myself leaning in, craving the nearness, her presence a balm to my hidden aches. Nighttime reflections deepened the pull. I'd lie awake in the guest room, the silence full between us, her bunk just walls away. The cabin creaked with settling wood, wind sighing outside, yearning built for authenticity in her presence. No masks, just raw edges fitting. I traced shadows on the ceiling, heart thudding soft, imagining her form in the dark. The quiet amplified it all, her steady breathing a rhythm I matched. What was this? A fleeting storm? Or something carving permanent? Sleep came slow, filled with her laugh, her touch, the river's flow. Dawn would bring her again, and I'd rise eager, the tension coiling tighter. The quiet rhythm they'd found was a fragile thing. Something had to give, and it did, in a moment of crisis that stripped away their remaining walls. The storm returned fierce that night, wind howling like it had unfinished business. Rain hammered the roof, relentless, turning the ground to slurry. I woke to her cursing low in the dark, boots already on, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. "Barn!" she said, grabbing her coat. No more words. I followed, pulling on my damp jacket, the chill seeping into bones. Outside, water lashed sideways, mud sucking at our steps. The barn door hung crooked, flood surging through cracks, hay bales sodden and shifting. Storm damage hit hard, beams groaning under weight, tools scattered like broken promises. Her exhaustion cracked the tough shell then, visible in the slump of her shoulders, the way her hands trembled slight as she shoved debris. She'd fought alone too long, this land her only companion, but now it betrayed her, water rising like buried fears. I didn't wait for instruction, grabbed a shovel from the wall, plunged it into the muck beside her. We worked in tandem, no plan, just motion, scooping silt, shoring the wall with spare planks. Our hands synced, hers guiding a board, mine holding steady. Mud caked our arms, cold and clinging, but the rhythm built heat between us. She glanced over once, surprise flickering in her eyes, then nodded. "Thanks," she murmured, voice rough, laced with something raw. Not just gratitude, recognition, like she'd forgotten help could come without strings. We pushed on till the flood eased, backs aching, breaths ragged in the downpour. Her shell fractured further, vulnerability spilling out with the water, the ranch no longer a fortress, but a shared wound. Dawn broke gray, the air heavy with wet earth. We trudged to the river, swollen now, banks eroded raw. Silt choked its flow, brown eddies swirling lazy, mirroring the mess inside me. She stopped at the edge, staring down, hands on knees. Water lapped her boots, insistent. "I fear this," she said, quiet, voice barely over the rush. "Change. It floods in, washes everything clean, but leaves scars." Her words hung, symbolism thick, the river reshaping what stood firm too long. I knelt beside her, stones sharp under palms, and confessed. The city. I sought validation beyond the masks. Smiles for show, hiding who I am. Out here, it's stripping me bare. We sat there, introspective, the current pulling at our edges. Her fear echoed mine, change not just weather, but the shift in us, silt settling truths we'd avoided. The river flowed on, unpredictable, carving space for what came next. Pasts unfolded slow by the water, words tumbling like loosened stones. Her rural roots ran deep, small town whispers, family expectations tight as wire. "Grew up hiding," she said, eyes on the horizon. "Liking women? That didn't fit their world. Lost friends, drifted alone." Queer identity struggles woven into the land, judgments sharper than thorns. I shared mine, urban facade cracking, city lights bright but blind to the ache of concealed loves, relationships fleeting under scrutiny. Parties full of faces, none seeing me true, similar pains, just different dust. Empathy surged, our stories bridging, the miles between ranch and streets. No pity, just understanding. The river's murmur underscoring it all. We'd both built walls against the world, guarding hearts from floods of rejection. Her hand rested near mine on the bank, not touching, but close enough the air hummed. Shared depths bound us, pains no longer solitary. Later, hauling the last plank back, I slipped on slick mud, ankle twisting sharp. Pain shot up my leg, hot and sudden. She caught me quick, arm around my waist, Steadying. Easy. Inside the barn, her nurturing emerged. Tough hands gentle now, easing me to a bale. She fetched a cloth from her pocket, damp with rain, and wrapped my ankle, fingers probing, careful. Hold still. The touch lingered, her palm warm against skin, tracing the swell. Intense empathy stirred, her care a revelation, desire coiling low in my belly. I watched her, breath shallow, the way her brow furrowed, focused. No rush, just presence, her eyes meeting mine soft. The air thickened, hay scent mixing with her closeness. Hearts, thudding, sink. Desire bloomed, not just physical, deeper, validating the hidden parts we'd confessed. Her fingers paused, thumb brushing slow, electric trail fading, reluctant. Tension peaked that evening, fire rebuilt in the hearth, flames dancing shadows on walls. We sat close, silence charged, the day's labors hanging between us. This pull, I said, voice low, admitting it first. Between us, it's real. Her guarded eyes softened, recognition hopeful, like dawn breaking silt. Yeah, feels too big, but right. Confession hung, barriers dissolving in the warmth. No more hiding. The river had carved us open, truths flowing free. Her hand found mine then, calluses, rough against smooth, fitting, perfect. The world outside quieted, storm spent, leaving us to the spark. With barriers lowered, intimacy demands confrontation. Evenings by the fire became our unspoken ritual, flames licking logs with a steady crackle that matched the slow build inside me. We'd settle on the worn rug, backs against the couch, the heat pushing back the night's chill. Her flannel brushed my arm once, accidental at first, the rough weave catching on my sleeve. Then again, deliberate, a graze that sent warmth threading through me. Charged silences, stretched, not empty, but full, like the space between breaths held too long. Our hearts thudded in unison, a rhythm I felt in my chest, sinking with hers across the narrow gap. I'd steal glances at her profile, firelight carving shadows on her jaw, softening the lines work had etched, no words needed. The air hummed with it, the pull we'd confessed now a current, steady and insistent. Her knee nudged mine, staying there, the contact grounding, electric, under the surface. Subtle advances wove through the days, small gestures piercing the veil. One evening, as wind rattled the windows, she shrugged off her jacket, heavy denim lined with fleece. Here, she said, draping it over my shoulders without asking. The weight settled warm, carrying her scent, earth and faint wood smoke, wrapping me like an embrace. I pulled it close, fingers brushing hers in thanks. They lingered, tips tracing, then intertwined, brief, palms pressing flat. Symbolism hit deep, warmth, piercing cold isolation, her guarded world cracking open to share heat. I squeezed back, thumb stroking her knuckle, rough from rope and rain. She didn't pull away, eyes holding mine, gray depths, flickering like embers. The jacket hung loose on me, too big, but it fit in ways my city layers never had, enveloping, real. Later, passing a mug of tea, our fingers overlapped again. Deliberate now. The touch, a promise, unspoken. Isolation thawed in those moments, her reluctance fading into reach. Internal conflict gnawed at me through the nights, fear twisting like barbed wire in my gut. This connection felt fleeting, a storm's gift that could vanish with the clearing sky. Me back to city grind, her rooted here in dust and dawn. I'd lie awake, staring at beams overhead, heart slamming soft. What if it ended as sudden as it started? Her world pulled me, but mine waited, a tether yanking me away. Across the wall, her breathing even, I wondered at her reluctance, risking solitude again after heartbreaks that scarred deeper than drought. She'd built this life alone, strong, unyielding. Letting someone in meant erosion, banks giving way to flood. Yet the pull won, mornings finding us closer, her smile quicker at my improving chores. Fear versus want, a tug that heightened every glance, every brush. I wanted permanence, but doubted my place in her vast quiet. She mirrored it, eyes sometimes distant, weighing the cost of opening wide. We stepped outside one clear night, air crisp, stars vast overhead like scattered grit in black velvet. The ranch lay still, fences silver in moonlight, the sky mirroring infinite possibilities, second chances at love, points of light, piercing endless dark. She pointed to a cluster, voice low. That's Orion, hunting eternal. Her arm brushed mine, staying, as we tilted heads back. The stars pulled us, vast as her land, reminding me love could span divides, city to ranch, guarded hearts to thawing ones. Feels possible out here, I whispered, breath fogging. She nodded, hand finding my waist, fingers splaying warm. Yeah, like the dark holds room. Symbolism settled deep, stars a map to what we'd lost and found. Endless nights, waiting for this alignment. We stood long, bodies leaning, the cold forgotten in shared gaze upward. Infinite, yet intimate. The sky echoing our shift from alone to entwined. Passion built slow, then surged one rainy afternoon, kitchen radio crackling static through the downpour. An old tune filtered in, melody warped but insistent, pulling her to hum low. Dance, she asked, half joking, extending a hand. I took it, laughing soft, stepping into her space. Bodies close in the narrow room, her arm around my waist, mine on her shoulder, flannel soft under. Palm, we swayed, awkward at first. Feet stumbling on the linoleum, but rhythm caught us, hips aligning, breaths mingling warm. Her hand slid to my lower back, pressing gentle, guiding the sway. Unspoken promises hung in the air, the static fading to our heartbeats. I leaned in, forehead to hers, eyes closing as the song looped. Desire coiled tight, her thigh brushing mine, heat rising steady. The rain sheeted outside, but inside, world narrowed to us. Bodies learning each other, promises sealed in motion. She spun me slow, pulling back to arm's length, then close again, breaths quick. Passion hummed, not rushed, but building. The dance a threshold crossed. Then the emotional jolt. Mid-spin, she pulled back sudden, hands dropping, eyes shadowed. Wait! Voice cracked, doubts spilling. This me opening up again. Last time it broke everything. Solitude's safe. Vulnerability raw, her stance tense. Flannel sleeves tugged down like armor. I stepped closer, heart thudding. I get it. Fear's real for me too. Fleeting, then gone. Honesty drew us nearer, her walls trembling. She reached out, fingers tracing my arm, pulling me in. But you see me. The pull strengthened, doubts voicing only to fade, vulnerability binding tighter than silence. We stood foreheads touching, breaths sinking, the radio humming forgotten. The crisis point arrives, testing the fragile bond. The call came sharp that morning, phone buzzing on the kitchen table like an unwelcome intruder. I stepped outside to take it. Air clear now, storm spent, leaving the ranch washed and raw. The rental company rep's voice cut through, apologetic but firm. Mix-up confirmed. Cabin wasn't listed right. We'll refund full, but you need to head out today. Roads are passable. Urgency laced her words, a pullback to my world of deadlines and dim lights. I hung up, staring at the horizon where clouds parted slow. Choice loomed heavy, the cleared sky mocking my tangled heart. Leave now, slip back into the city grind, or stay, risking the flood we'd started. Her boots crunched gravel behind me, presence steady as the fence post. What did they say? Voice even, but eyes searched mine, guarded depth stirring. I turned, phone clutched tight. Error. They want me gone. Roads open. Words hung, the ranch quiet around us, wind whispering through grass like a held breath. Her face shifted, tough lines tightening, then cracking. She stepped closer, flannel sleeves rolled, hands flexing at sides. Stay longer. Plea slipped out, voice breaking on the edge, raw as exposed root. Depth of feeling spilled then, beneath her exterior. Years of solitude fracturing, revealing the woman who'd let me in, inch by inch. Please, us, don't end it yet. Her eyes held mine, gray and vulnerable, the guard down. I saw it all. The loneliness she'd shared, the laughs we'd built, the touches that lingered. My chest tightened, the choice no longer simple. The city waited, but here, in her gaze, something real bloomed. We walked to the river without words, banks still scarred from the flood, water running clearer but swift. Sat on a log, knees brushing, the current's murmur urging truths. Fears confronted us head on, no more hiding in routines. My identity, I started, voice low, queer in a world of straight lines, past wounds, loves that faded under stares, judgments that cut deeper than silence. She nodded, hand near mine on the bark. Same here. Rural roots choked it out. Family whispers, town eyes watching. Hide long, built this wall. Past wounds unfolded, shared like stones, skipped across water, rippling out. Resilience emerged in the telling. Queer strength forged in isolation, validating each other without fanfare. We survived that, she said, fingers closing over mine, rough warmth grounding. Makes us stronger. Together. Mutual nod. Fears named losing power. The river carrying them downstream. Empathy bridged the last gaps. Our pains not burdens but shared soil, fertile for what grew. Tension crested then, the air thick with unsaid. I turned to her, hand cupping her jaw, thumb tracing the line work had etched. She leaned in, breath catching, eyes searching for the final yes. Embrace came natural, arms wrapping tight, bodies aligning against the log's rough edge. Her flannel scratched soft, heat building through layers. Kiss followed, tender at first, lips brushing hesitant, tasting salt and earth. Then urgent, mouths opening, tongues exploring with reverent care. Her hands roamed my back, fingers splaying wide, pulling me closer while mine tangled in her hair. Ties loosening, passion surged, breaths mingling ragged, the world narrowing to her taste, her scent, the thud of hearts against ribs. We broke only for air, foreheads pressed, the kiss a seal on confessions. Desire hummed, not rushed but deep, validating every hidden ache. Introspection settled in the afterglow, sitting tangled by the water. Like the river carving stone, patient and relentless, our connection reshaped us. Guarded hearts, worn smooth into hopeful terrain. Silt of doubts washed away, leaving banks stronger, ready for flow. The ranch felt different now, vast, but ours, the sky endless witness. We'd eroded walls, not destroyed, but transformed. The lyric of us, written in mud and light. Affirmation came whispered, her lips at my ear. We'll navigate it. City pulls, ranch roots, blend our worlds, authentic, no masks. I nodded, hand in hers, commitments soft but sure. Together. Differences as bridges. Union felt real, not forced. The choice made in that kiss. The river still flowed, but the silt was gone. The intensity of the confession gave way to a quiet, profound understanding, ready for this steady work of building a life together. Days settled into a blend neither of us had planned, lives weaving like vines over fence wire. Mornings still called us to chores, but now, with shared steps, her teaching ranch grit, while I offered city savvy and return. She'd hand me the reins for the horses, watching my grip tighten, hesitant. Looser! Let them lead. Her voice guided, patient, as I learned the sway of saddles, the trust in a mare's eye. In turn, I'd show her my phone during breaks, scrolling apps for market tips on feed prices or weather apps that predicted rain with eerie accuracy. See? City tools. Cutting the guesswork. She leaned close, brow furrowed at the screen, then nodded, a spark of curiosity lighting her face. Growth fostered in those exchanges, my hands toughening on tools, her world expanding beyond the horizon. No rush, just steady progress, our differences fueling rather than dividing. I'd catch her smiling at my improving knots, and I'd laugh when she grumbled at gadget nonsense, the ranch humming with our blended rhythm. Deeper bonding came in quiet hours, plans unfolding like the land after rain. We'd sit on the porch swing at dusk, creaking soft, mapping future visits. Me returning weekends from the city, her venturing in for a taste of lights and noise. Show me your streets, she'd say, hand tracing mine on the armrest. Her nurturing showed in small gestures, an extra blanket on cold nights, coffee brewed just how I liked, black with a hint of sugar, she'd noticed. I'd wake to it steaming beside me, her note scribbled, fuel for the day. My empathy met hers in shared dreams, late talks by the fire where I'd describe urban escapes I'd build for us, quiet cafes away from crowds, places to hold hands unseen. "We'll make space," I'd whisper, her head on my shoulder. Bonds strengthened, not in grand promises, but in the everyday. Her mending my city coat with ranch thread, me reading her old letters aloud, voices mingling in the lamplight. Vulnerability lingered, but now it warmed, drawing us closer. The river ran clear post-storm, waters sparkling under sun, banks rebuilt stronger. We'd walk its edge often, feet sinking in soft mud turned firm, the flow steady without silt's haze. It echoed our clarity. Emotional floods receded, leaving belonging in their wake. No more choking doubts. The current carried us forward, smooth and sure. One afternoon, we waded in, shallow, water cool around ankles, her hand in mine pulling me deeper. Feel that? Clean run. Symbolism settled deep, the river's resolve mirroring ours, hearts unclouded, rooted in this shared flow. Belonging wasn't forced. It grew from the earth between us, the ranch no longer hers alone, but ours, intimate in its vastness. Doubts arose gentle, addressed in mature reflection over evening meals. Age whispered first, her lines from sun and seasons, mine from city haste. But we faced it head on, forks pausing mid-bite. "Years add weight," she said, eyes steady. "But not burden." I nodded, tracing her palm. "Backgrounds pull different ways. Your dust, my concrete, yet here we fit." Reflection affirmed love's timeless pull, not bound by timelines or maps. "It's the pull that matters," I replied, drawing us despite the miles. No rush to resolve every fear, just acknowledgement, strengthening the weave. Her rural solitude met my urban drift, differences honored as strengths, her grounding me lifting her gaze. Affirmation came in touches, in the way we'd pause work to lean together, worlds blending without erasure. Final intimate moments, filled nights, quiet and entwined in her bunk, sheets tangled like our lives, bodies fit natural, her arm across my waist, breath warm on my neck. No words needed. Validation flowed in the press of skin, hidden selves laid bare and cherished. I'd trace the scars on her shoulders from old falls, her fingers mapping my softer curves, each touch a whisper of acceptance. "You see me," she'd murmur, lips brushing my collarbone. Desire simmered low, passionate but tender, affirming the queer truths we'd guarded so long. Nights deepened connection, sleep coming easy in her hold, dreams shared in the dark. Emotional payoff arrived subtle, a sense of home not in places, but mutual presence. The ranch felt full now, fields echoing our laughter, barn holding our labors side by side. Understanding bridged everything. Burnout faded, her isolation lifted. We were each other's quiet, the wrong rental, a right turn to this. Home pulsed in her gaze, in the grit under nails, in the river's clear song. The story circles back to reflection and call to connection. We stand on the porch at dawn, hands clasped tight, the ranch stretching endless yet intimate under rising light. Mist clings to the fields, birds calling soft, her thumb stroking my knuckles in steady rhythm. This wrong turn led to right hearts, proving connection waits in unexpected silences, the kind that fill, rather than echo, empty. You know that pull, don't you? The one that upends plans, drawing you to authenticity when you least expect it. This story, born from dust and rain, reminds us love carves its path, resilient and real, no matter the miles or masks. If it resonated, stirring your own hidden yearnings, subscribe for more authentic, sapphic tales that honor our journeys. Share in the comments your unexpected pulls, those moments that shifted everything. What wrong turn led you home? Let's connect there. building this community one story at a time.